Did you notice that magic is real in the world of Bluey? And the most curious thing is that only some of the characters can use it. And no, this is not just a joke, friends. Throughout the episodes of Bluey, we've been given very obvious clues that the Healer family seems to have some strange knowledge about how the world of magic works. So in this video, we're gonna discuss all these events and see if magic really does exist in the world of Bluey. Let's start where it all began, the magic xylophone. And let me tell you, this episode is quite curious. This is where we're introduced to the first magical object in Bluey's world, a xylophone that gives Bingo and Bluey the power to freeze people. Many of us might think that it's just a game where the kids and Bandit agreed on the rules beforehand, maybe the day before. But if that were the case, I think things would have turned out differently, since being a game, it would have to have rules. And speaking of rules, Bluey is the #1 at following them, as we saw in the Shadowlands episode. This is where we get our first suspicion about the existence of magic. As soon as Bluey is paralyzed by the xylophone, Bingo keeps running and is unaffected by magic. I'm sure that if this had been planned, Bluey would have unfrozen herself and scolded Bingo for not staying frozen when it was clearly her turn. Even with the power of the xylophone, Bingo can talk to Bluey to make sure she respects her turn. And knowing Bluey, the truth is that she seemed way too calm for Bingo not following the rules. Anyway, this is the first and smallest piece of evidence we have for the existence of magic. Let's move on to something more suspicious. Things start to get much stranger in this next episode, Spygame. In this episode, they show us how the kids try to control the adults with a potion. A potion? What? Where did they even get this idea? And come on friends, this isn't just a simple game. They even managed to get a few strands of hair from each of the adults. This already sounds much more like a real witch's potion. The crazy part about all this is that in the end, it actually works. And remember we mentioned earlier that not just anyone can handle magic? Here's where we get our first clue. When the potion is ready, everyone wants to try it, but when Mackenzie tries to use it, it just doesn't work the way he hoped. But when it's Bingo's turn, everything happens just the way she wants it to. I know, it all seems like a simple coincidence. But also think about it, why did it happen when it was Bingo's turn? There was plenty of time for this chaos to occur at any other moment, or even when everyone was fighting over who would try the potion. But well, if you're still not convinced, don't worry, because we still have more evidence. Now let's talk about one of the strangest and most inexplicable episodes of Bluey, Fairies. All of this starts after Bandit hurts Bingo's feelings, and that's when the fairies get upset and start creating chaos in the house until Bandit apologizes to little Bingo. I know you might think this whole show was planned by Bingo to get Bandit to reconcile with her in a fun way. But there are plenty of events that simply have no explanation and only make sense if the fairies were truly involved. For example, why would Bandit humiliate himself to the extreme by dancing in front of all of his neighbors? And what about the magical room? There's simply no reasonable explanation for all the decorations that appeared out of nowhere. The only thing Bingo could have done here was draw a stinky picture of Bandit. It would have taken them hours to hang all that stuff. And for most of the episode, the family is together. Did they hang everything telepathically? Honestly, this was far too much just to teach Bandit a lesson. But if you still have doubts, there's something you definitely won't be able to explain. How certain things just appear out of nowhere. Like the stickers on the back of Bluey, Chilli's clothespin beard, which by the way, she never grabbed any from the clothesline. And to top it all off, the fairy circles. Also, where did they even get all those rocks? Did they go all the way to the creek and bring them back? When did they have time to do that if they were always together? None of it makes sense, unless the fairies really were behind it all. And something I found curious is the fact that everyone in the family seems to be aware that fairies do exist. Even Bandit makes a drawing to show Bluey and Bingo. And here's something strange. Bluey mentions that fairies are invisible, but Bingo says you have to find them with your heart. Could it be that Bingo had seen them before? This connects very well with the ending. We see that the heart Bingo made for Bandit is suddenly arranged again, and lo and behold, a fairy appears. But only Bingo is able to see it. Could it be that only she possesses this gift? Now let's move on to even more obvious evidence that magic exists in Bluey's world. All these ideas must have come from someone, and that someone is none other than Chilli herself. She taught her daughters all about magics, especially Bluey, and I suppose it's for a simple reason. She's the eldest daughter and can better understand the rules of magic. In this episode, we see Chilli telling Bluey that this is a magic asparagus, and Bluey then passes this knowledge on to little Bingo, who doesn't quite understand whether it's a game or something real. And this is probably why Bingo doesn't get the spells right the first time. That's why Chilli disguises it as a game, so it doesn't get out of control. And in fact, here we have other clues that lead us to think that these are not just harmless games. First of all, with this asparagus, they have the ability to transform others into any animal. And they take their role so seriously that they even end up biting poor Cat. Who in their right mind would bite their neighbor just for a game? Or what about when Bandit is up in a tree and Bluey turns him into a walrus? Bandit falls from a height over 6 feet just to play along? I don't think so, friends. Just look at the expression on his face when Bluey says she's turning him into a walrus. I don't think any adult would jump from that height just to please their kids. It seems like everything is out of their control when they're under the effects of magic. Are you telling me that these behaviors are not strange? But for those who still are not convinced that magic exists in Bluey, the evidence becomes even more undeniable. In the episode Magic Feather, everything becomes inexplicable. Here, Bingo tries to stop Chilli and Bluey from going to Chloe's party. And to do so, she finds a magic feather that makes things much heavier than they are. Sounds like a simple game, right? Here, Bingo goes all out and starts making everything her parents pick up incredibly heavy, like Bandit's cereal, his bowl, and his spoon. But the strangest part is when Bandit tries to lift the spoon with a broomstick, and the stick bends under the weight of the spoon. It gets even weirder when the spoon is the only thing that doesn't move, but the ball next to Bandit does. Also, on several occasions, Bingo sneaks around and no one even notices she's there, yet still things become unbearably heavy. In other words, they were not aware of Bingo's game, and yet things became heavy, like Bluey's brush or the invitation Chilli picked up. And this couldn't just be a simple game made up by Bingo, because even those who didn't know about the game were affected by magic of Bingo's feather. The clearest example of this is Pat himself. I don't think he had any idea that Bingo was playing a game where things got heavy. Yet, despite not knowing, Pat fell when his hat suddenly became heavy, and then leaving them on the ground after Bingo removed the weight from the other items. If it had just been a game, he would have simply gotten up and gone home. But the poor guy had to wait who knows for how long until Bingo decided to lift the spell. And as definitive proof, we have the episode Magic. Here, it's simply made crystal clear that magic does exist, as we see Chilli not wanting to play with Bingo because she's busy. Here, it's made crystal clear that magic does exist, as we see Chilli not wanting to play with Bingo because she's busy. So, Bluey teaches Bingo that she can use magic to make others do whatever she wants. At first, Bingo struggles a bit to understand how the magic works, but as the episode progresses, she begins to master it. Bluey uses the magic to play pranks on her parents. And it even goes beyond just being a game, as Bluey ends up giving her parents a good spanking with magic. And as we mentioned earlier, this happens because when someone is under the effects of magic, they lose all self-control. That's why it's impossible for them to stop Bluey and Bingo. Later, we see Chilli getting upset because they're misusing the magic, and she even asks who taught Bingo how to use it. This implies that Chilli was the one who prepared Bluey to learn how to use magic. And it makes a lot of sense, because when Bluey tries to keep controlling her parents, Bingo realizes it's not right and joins the good side. When Bandit is on top of Chilli, he doesn't even realize that Bingo has decided to switch sides, but suddenly he begins to lift off Chilli, and then we see Bingo slowly approaching. There's no logic to this. No one knew about Bingo's decision unless they could read her mind. But something quite curious is that only Bluey, Bingo, and Chilli seems to be capable of using magic. The only time we saw Bandit use a bit of magic was in the Magic Xylophone episode, which is probably why he struggles to defend himself from his daughter's antics. He even admits he wishes he could learn some magic. Could it be that they're subtly hinting that the healer family really does have a forbidden power? Could it be that Chilli's side of the family were magic practitioners? Maybe so, friends, since we have plenty of other examples of how magic interferes with the healer's family's interactions. Take for instance the dance mode episode, where the kids make everyone dance non-stop, no matter the situation, even if it puts their lives at risk at a crosswalk or humiliates them in a store. No parent in the right mind would allow this to happen in public. Or what about the Tina episode, where Bluey and Bingo create an imaginary friend who's enormous and doesn't let their parents boss them around? This might be the most violent episode in the series, as we see Bluey and Bingo's parents getting seriously hurt and beaten by the imaginary friend they created. The game becomes so extreme that they even take it out into the street, and Wendy herself is shocked by what they're doing. The only reasonable explanation for a normal person would be that these people are completely nuts. But the ultimate proof lies in the dreams connected within the healer family. As we saw in the Fruitbat episode, Bluey dreams that she's a Fruitbat and can't fly. During her journey, she encounters her dad, who's having one of his favorite dreams. Throughout the episode, there's evidence that when the two wake up, they realize their dreams connected, and Bluey knows exactly what Bandit was dreaming about. Similarly, in the Sleepytime episode, we see Bluey and Bingo connecting their dream, ultimately disturbing Bandit. It's likely, friends, that those closest to the healer family already know, at least to some extent, about how they can control magic. We've seen that Pat, for instance, seems very accustomed to their behavior and how they act. When he was bitten, he simply said she shouldn't have let his guard down, and when his head was made heavy, he just stayed there on the ground without complaining. Now, we need to talk about Bingo and her unique ability to avoid being affected by magic. It seems she's the only one who can resist the magic when something doesn't sit well with her. Maybe because this is a gift she inherited from Chilli. But well, what do you think about all this? Do you really believe magic exists in Bluey? Or is it just their imagination? Let us know in the comments.